everyone, welcome to Agile Parent Entrepreneur. This is Melinda Chen. Today I'm excited to be speaking with Esther Kiss. She's an amazing PR expert. We've actually become good friends. We also belong to the same mastermind group together. She pretty much knows everybody in the social media industry, and she has such a passion to get everybody connected, to help entrepreneurs grow. So we have a lot to talk about. Esther Kiss, welcome to Agile Parent Entrepreneur.
Thank you for having me, Melinda. I'm thrilled to be here.
Every time I talk to you, it feels like you know everybody.
That's funny.
Why don't you just tell us your journey to starting in this internet world and to building your PR agency?
Yeah, well, I got started back about 15 years ago in marketing. I'm originally from Europe, from Hungary, and I grew up there, Hungary and Romania. And I lived in 6 other countries before relocating to California.
Oh, wow.
And so it was quite a journey, but I don't think I'm really nomadic by nature. There was always something that was happening, either studies or family or business, something that made me move. And so my background is in business development and in marketing. And when I came over to LA, I thought I had this great idea that I want to become an actor because I liked to perform ever since I was a kid. I would always do the little shows at home for my parents in school, perform and all that. And so I moved over to LA in 2008 and went to an acting conservatory for a couple of years, and I did a few movies and produced some, and so that was all good and well. But you know how you always hear about out of work actors when you hear that they're actually working as waiters, serving in restaurants. So I don't want to do that. So because I had a background in business development and business and finance and marketing, I thought, well, what I could do is do day trading. So because we are 3 hours behind behind New York, I thought, well, if I get up really early in the morning, read the news, do my research, I can trade for a few hours and then be ready and available during the day for auditions and for filming. And so that went really good until the recession hit. And then I was like, okay, this is not fun anymore. Big loss, and I was like, okay, now what am I going to do? So I went back to my roots in marketing. I was helping small business owners, coaches, consultants with their marketing strategies so that they can actually take their business to the next level. And with my friend Meta Miller, we launched this show called Born to Influence, the marketing show. And my idea was that, while I like coaching, I really wanted to connect with high-level influencers, people who really are on the top of their game, New York Times bestselling authors, people who really have a good success track record. And my plan was that, well, if I get to develop these relationships in between them, I can connect them, and then we'll do JV deals, and that will be my business. So what's the best way to start adding value to them? Obviously, is to be able to help them to either promote or to offer some kind of a kindness or generosity type of act that really will help them in their business. So that's how we've been able to actually, even before we launch a show, to invite and have people on like Gary Vaynerchuk, like Perry Marshall, Joel Comm, like people really who are very influential in the space. And the strategy behind it is to be able to figure out what they want. And especially when they're vocal on social media, you'll know exactly what they want because they talk about it. Like if they have a book coming out, for example, and then you can offer that, hey, I have this show, I would like to help you promote your book. Would you like to come and do an interview? So that's how it got started. We launched the show in 2013, and every time after we stopped the recording, I would always ask the guests that, hey, by the way, I know you have this book coming out. Would you like to also be on other people's shows? And they would always say yes. So I would connect them. I would introduce them, thinking that, well, I'm building this relationship and eventually we'll be able to do business together. And at some point, it dawned on me that all this connecting and getting them on other people's shows is actually something that I could be charging money for. So that's how it shifted from marketing to PR, and that's what I've been doing now for quite some time. And really, it's well, the way I look at it is really you have to have the two together. So you have to have your PPC, your pay-per-click advertising, your general process that you already have in your business right now. Let's say you're doing webinars or whatever way you're generating leads, and then selling them to have clients and customers. That is necessary before you do any kind of publicity, because otherwise you're kind of putting the horse before the cart.
Mm-hmm. Well, we do have a lot of listeners that are experts or consultants, and they have their online program. And can you just kind of clarify how to use podcasts to really promote their expertise and authority?
Mm-hmm. So podcasts are a really interesting type of medium because they're so unique in that you really get to access the top most affluent part of the population. So it will be people who have at least six figures or more per household in income, and they're more technologically savvy. They're interested in what you have to say. That's why they're tuning in, because they're usually listening to podcasts at least once a week, but most of the time, at least a few times a day, a few times a week, actually, going back and forth to work, or while they're at the gym, while they're doing housework. So they're interested in actually growing their education and understanding more about their subject of expertise as well, and learning and then applying it into their own business. So really, you have a captive audience who wants to learn this. So a couple of my clients who we recently launched books for, like for example, Ryan Levesque, right? He is the author of the book Ask. He did both traditional media, traditional PR, like big names, newspapers, magazines, TV, and then also podcasts. And it was really interesting to see that the biggest driver for his book sales, which became, by the way, a number one bestseller, number one on the LA Times list, number one on Amazon in all books, and sold out and all that stuff, it came actually from a combination of Facebook ads and podcast interviews.
Really?
Yeah, not the big name media. And that is, there is a really logical reason for it. I mean, it was a surprise for him because he was doing a conscious podcast tour for the first time. But really, when you look at it, not only you get this passionate audience who really wants to know more, but you have a space to explain your methodology. If you go on TV, or if you're, let's say, interviewed for Entrepreneur Magazine, or something like a big name media, it's great for credibility because you get to put those logos on your website. And when somebody comes there for the first time, it makes an impression. They feel that you're somebody who's credible. They feel that you know what you're doing. But because they're serving a mass market audience, you have to be very brief with your message. You have a few minutes only, and you have to dumb it down so that it serves a broader market. Whereas on a podcast, you can be as specific as, like, for example, what we are doing here, talking for a half an hour about just how do you do PR just to grow your business. So it's very much how-to based. It's very much things that people can take away and immediately implement. And so you get to build that relationship with your audience and that rapport where they come back and be like, oh my gosh, this really worked for me. I want to know more. So as an expert, when you're using podcasts as part of your marketing strategy, then what you can do is really build this following and build this platform, and then build it into the rest of your marketing so that you develop trust and relationship with your audience. And then by the time they come to see your offer, they're ready to buy.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And for somebody, an expert, how do they find the good podcast or suitable podcast for their offer?
That's a really good question. So you have to, first of all, if you want to be interviewed, the best thing is to first start listening to some of the interviews so that you get a feel for how these shows go, and then have a sense of what kind of experts do they have on that show, what kind of clients do they serve, and what is the audience like, what kind of questions do they want to have typically answered. And so that way you can have a sense of, okay, these are the type of shows that might be interested in what I have to offer as well. So for example, let's say you're a fitness expert or a health coach. Obviously, health type of podcast and weight loss and all those things would be a good fit. But in some cases, what might be also a good fit for you is the business and marketing type of shows if you have a nice track record in your business, because you can talk about how you built your business, but you're in front of an audience of entrepreneurs who are typically really looking for the slight edge, and they want to improve their health and they want to improve their bodies. And so that will be also a good fit for you, because you'll be able to mention through the explanation of how you built your business and giving them marketing advice, also some of the things that you're doing in terms of health challenges or things that they can do, for example, to stop sugar cravings, to be more productive. So you can find a way to tie it into what you're doing and then serve that audience at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So now you've selected the audience or the podcast you would like to be on. How do you approach those podcasters and allow them or convince them to interview you?
Yeah, so the best thing that you can do is to connect with them ahead of time, if you can, before pitching yourself. So either you can have somebody like a mutual friend who can introduce you, or obviously you can hire a publicist. But if you don't have any of those things, what you can do is connect with them on social media, start listening to their show, start retweeting them, sharing their specific episodes on podcasts, write them an email, hey, I really enjoyed this show, and just talk to them a little bit to have a level of rapport before you start pitching yourself. Now, when you're ready to pitch, let's just say you didn't have any introduction and you just did what we talked about here so far. What you want to do is send them a brief email and start with an honest compliment, with something that is really specific to them and explains also how it relates to you and how they have helped and cause change in your life. So, for example, I really enjoyed this specific article that you wrote here or this podcast episode that you put out. You talked about such, and you be specific with your example. It really resonated with me because, and then you give your reason why. And so, in one sentence, you managed to connect where they're at and where you are and build rapport immediately. So they know that you're not just saying, hey, I love your show, because well, everybody says that, and it's just a compliment for the sake of a compliment, and it doesn't resonate. But if you can be specific and detailed while being brief, that will really help you stand out from all the pitches that they already get. Now, the next thing that you want to do is like you can mention what you would like to offer. So you might give a couple of bullet points that I would love to come, and I think your audience might be interested in these and these topics. I'm wondering if you would like to maybe have a guest. I would love to be on your show, and then give headlines, basically give the topics in a way that they could actually use it as a title for their show notes page or for their episode, because in that way they know that you understand their audience's needs, and you're able to talk to them in a way that they're like, okay, I don't have to do too much work, this person gets it. And then the next thing that you want to do, if you can, is mention how many followers you have or how you're planning to promote it. If you have an advertising budget, this is, the kind of exposure that they're looking to get from from interviewing you on their show, because they're looking to build their audience as well on their platform as well. So, like for example, just recently I heard an interview with Louis House, the host of the School of Greatness, and he was specifically mentioning that he gets so many pitches. It's one of the most popular shows at iTunes, and so he said that, you know what, if somebody's not already famous, I'm not that inclined to putting them on, just because I want to grow my show as well. So in that case, it really helps if the person says that, hey, I have this size of an email list, or I'm spending, let's say, $5,000 to drive traffic to your site, you meaning him, So really, there is a way that you can find a win-win kind of situation. And I know that these are big numbers, but this is one of the top shows I do. So with the smaller ones, you don't necessarily have to have that kind of aggressive pushing kind of a strategy, but you can just say that, hey, I'm planning to share it with my social followers or with my email list, or this is how many people we can get the word out to initially. And be truthful, talk about the real numbers that you have if they're worth mentioning. If not, then just say in general that, oh, I'll be happy to promote it as well.
Mm-hmm. And you have your own podcast. Why don't you just let me know your criteria for selecting a good interviewee?
Yeah. So we look at what is their background in business. They have to have a very good track record. And it doesn't necessarily mean multi-millions of dollars. But I want to see that it's somebody who is not just talking out of theory, because there, especially in the coaching world, there is so many coaches and consultants
Yes.
who talk, but they're talking because they learned it somewhere, not because necessarily they built a successful business. So because it's a marketing show, we want to make sure that we are talking with real experts. So that's one I want to see that they have a success track record. And the second is, what is the topic? How does it fit in with all the experts that we already interviewed recently, the things that are coming out soon? So, for example, if somebody has a time-sensitive interview, let's say they have a book coming out in 3 months and they would like to be interviewed and then also have it published soon, well, then their topic has to fit with what we already have going on. And that's not necessarily something that I would publish ahead of time, because obviously, that's not until we release the episode, you wouldn't know that as a listener. So that's a good way to ask that, would this fit in with your editorial calendar? Mm-hmm. If not, that's okay. Then we can maybe plan for some time later. Just keep that in mind, that it may not be tomorrow. And then the other thing I always ask them, if it's not obvious when I look them up, is what is your philosophy between branding and direct response advertising, good direct response marketing? Because I want to know how to talk to that person and whether or not their philosophies align with what I believe in. And so that way, it's not that there's a right or wrong answer, because you really can do both. But you have to do it in a way that actually makes sense for people who don't have millions and millions of dollars of advertising budget, like a McDonald's or people who do institutional type of advertising. Mm-hmm. So that, and then I want to see how they write. And if you seem like an intelligent person, somebody who knows what they're doing, and then also is generous and giving, and not just they're all about self-promotion, then we can have a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow, that's a lot of things that you consider when you're picking an interview.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and when I said it before, and then every time I talk to you, you seem to be able to really connect with the people in the industry. Let's talk about maintaining that relationship because now we've been able to be interviewed, we're in the podcast. How do you maintain that relationship that so that eventually you can probably work with those influencers in the industry?
So see what you can do to help them. So remember how I told you the story of how we started just with the show simply, and as soon as we hung up or we started the recording, I would ask, "What else can I do to help you? Would you like to be on other shows?" Now, simply asking that question, that how can I help you further reach your goal with the project that you're working on, goes really far. But if you can be very specific, how it ties into your expertise, like let's say you are starting out and you don't have a ton of connections, one person or two, I'm sure, who you're only 6 degrees of separation from, so you can start building your dream list of who are the people that you would like to connect with, and then start finding those mutual friends, start building strategically those relationships with a few. It might be as small initially as sharing their articles, as mentioning them on social media. Be careful not to sound and seem like a groupie, where you're just a fan. You really want to be able to carry yourself in a way that they see you as an equal, and not equal in terms of professional accomplishment, but as a human being. So you really want to connect with them on the same level, because nobody likes to be put on pedestal. And I can tell you that from my background in acting as well. When dealing with celebrities, it's so hard for them to connect with people because everybody is like looking up, and that's not a comfortable situation to be in. So what you want to do with the influencers is to be able to connect with them in a way that they feel comfortable. And so then once you have one or two who you know and you figure out that they don't know each other, you can introduce them. And so it's kind of like trading baseball cards. You're matching up people who need something with somebody else who has the very same thing to offer, connecting them. It could be a simple email introduction or something on social media, or something, if you make it part of your daily routine, to connect at least a couple of people. And maybe not every day initially, you just do one or two a week, where you talk highly of both of them and say that, hey, I would like to introduce you guys because I have a feeling that there is room for collaboration. And then just put like with the first person's name, and then write a little bit of a blurb about them. Second person's name, write a little bit of blurb about them, and let it go. You're not looking at getting a commission here. You're not necessarily even looking at, they will do business together, but at least they have that friend of a friend type of introduction from the get-go, so they get to benefit. And when you do this over time, your network will be full of influencers who are then looking to host to help you as well, because you are putting yourself in a position of being a host.
Wow, that's amazing. But for a lot of small entrepreneurs who are starting up, they usually don't have a lot of budget and probably not a lot of time. For you, from your experience, what are the most productive marketing activities for those smaller entrepreneurs, and that would give them the most return?
So it's a very general question. What are the most productive marketing activities? I would look at, okay, how are you doing? How you're making your sales right now? What are your lowest hanging fruits? So, for example, if you're completely starting out, you have no list, you have no advertising budget, nothing. Then what I would do is, okay, figure out what is my offer exactly. Get a couple of clients who really get results, so that you're able to show that this is my track record. These are the results that people are getting. And then I would write a letter, and that would be to all my friends and all my contacts, and mention it to them. This is for complete starters, right? That, hey, by the way, that I'm starting this. I just started this business, and I would love your help. And then explain very briefly what you're doing. Couple of mentions of results, like let's just say if you're a health coach and this person lost 20 pounds in the last 2 months or something like that, you can mention that as a very brief little by the way, and then say that I'm looking to connect with people who could either benefit from this service or who know people who could benefit from this service. And depending on the relationship of who you're sending this letter to, it may be that you offer them an affiliate commission, or it may be that you're just counting on the goodwill of that person because you've known them for years. If you're outside of the internet marketing world, most people actually are not comfortable with getting a referral commission. They want to feel good about making that connection, and they don't want to feel like they are sending their friend to you to be pressured and into a sales call. So you have to be strategic about it, modify the structure that we just talked about in the letter to suit this specific relationship. But if you send maybe a 50 or 100 of these out, then you will start getting referrals. And then you get your clients, the first initial clients, and then they can refer you to other people. And in the meantime, you're building your relationships with influencers in the space who can also refer you. Give you an example. A couple of days ago, somebody reached out to me, and he has an advertising agency. He teaches experts, coaches, consultants, speakers, authors how to do their Facebook ads. And so we connected, and he says that I suggested actually that why don't we talk and see how we might be able to help each other. And I had a sense because we both work with the same target market. We are not competitive. He does direct response. I do PR. So it's something that is complementary. Let's have a phone call. So we got on the phone, and the idea was to see if he could refer clients to me and vice versa. And he liked the offer so much. When I explained it to him, he's like, "I want to work with you." Like, okay, very good. So things like that happen, and we haven't even started working together yet, and he already referred someone else to me who also signed up. So really, if you are
That's amazing.
but it can happen. Like, it doesn't matter if you have a huge track record. So
Yes.
if you know what you're doing, and if it's a true offer that is not just imagining that you're getting results, but people really are getting results, have a couple of beta clients initially, and then you can draw on that and start connecting with people who work with your target market, who have a complementary but not competitive offer, and then you can connect with them and see what kind of a mutually beneficial relationship you can work out.
At the end, it's always the joint venture and the connections that you build to help you grow
Yeah,
that business.
yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Well, as we get towards the end, why don't you just tell us the general or the common mistakes you see people make when they're trying to work on their PR?
Well, one of the things is expecting traffic. And that is something that is a very common misconception. Most people think that, well, if I get on TV or I get on Oprah or whatever, I'm going to have all these sales immediately. And that's just not the case. Doesn't matter how optimized your funnel is, how beautiful your website is, all that stuff that's necessary. But every single sale and lead that you get from that one-time appearance is bonus on top of what you actually are able to make if you look at all your media interviews as assets that you can use in your content marketing. And so what I mean by that is, let's just say you have a product coming out or a service or a book in a couple of months. You build up this online media tour where you're scheduling your interviews ahead of time. You're going about it very strategically, meeting with the right people, going for the right shows that are your target audience, then taking that, like, let's say right now here we are doing this video. We all have the video footage with your interview. Now we can
Exactly.
transform that into a podcast, right? Because we read about the audio, get the transcript, make it into a blog article, cut up that blog article and make little social media updates from it. There is a lot of ways that you can actually repurpose that so that 1 hour that you spend or half an hour that you spend doing an interview is actually something that will serve you over and over and over again if you just repurpose it. And then what you want to do is look at, what is my funnel? Like, let's just say you are selling through webinars, right? When people sign up for your webinar, there is that few days of a time delay between when they register and when they actually come to see your presentation. So you're sending them materials, you're sending them content that relates to what you'll be offering to them. And if you supplement that with some of the interviews that you've done and you send that, then you get to build that relationship and that trust with them so that by the time they come to see your offer, they're like, oh my gosh, I really want to try and work with this person, because they already have that kind of level of rapport with you that they would not have otherwise.
Wow, that's every time I talk to you, there are so many tips and so many actions that I could take to use for my own business as well. Well,
Absolutely.
well, thank you very much for talking to us, and hopefully we'll have a chance to invite you to come talk to us again.
Thank you. Thank you so much for
Yes,
having me.
and if people want to connect with you, what would be the best way?
Go to borntoinfluence.com. That's the best way. And then also you can find the show on on iTunes at Born to Influence, the marketing show. And also, if you want to try to see whether or not PR is something that will make sense for you at the stage of business that you're in, because really you have to be ready for it. You have to have a strong sales and marketing process. So I do have a little assessment, a little quiz on my site that is free, and it's really easy. It's fun, 12 yes or no questions. And so basically you can answer them and then see if or whether or not it makes sense for you right now to go after PR. And if it doesn't, it will give you a lot of advice and strategies on what you can do to get yourself ready.
Yes, I have actually done that quiz, and I thought it's a pretty fun quiz to take for any business owners.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Esther, and we'll talk to you next time.
Sounds good.
Bye.